In the shadow of World War II, the world grappled with a terrifying question. How could ordinary citizens become complicit in horrific atrocities? Were they all monsters? Or were they something more familiar? Something more like us? In 1961, a young psychologist named Stanley Milgram devised an experiment to find the answer. The results would be more shocking than anyone could imagine, and would forever change our understanding of obedience, authority, and the very nature of human morality. Through newspaper ads, Milgram recruited ordinary men from New Haven, Connecticut teachers, engineers, postal workers. They were told they were participating in a scientific study on memory and learning. Upon arrival at the elegant Yale University laboratory, each participant was introduced to another volunteer, a friendly, middle-aged man who was, in reality, a trained actor. A rigged drawer always assigned the true participant to the role of teacher and the actor to the role of learner. The teacher's task was to read word pairs and administer an electric shock to the learner for each mistake. The shock generator was a terrifying machine, with 30 switches marked in 15-volt increments. From slight shock to a daunting 450 volts labeled 30. As the test began, the learner in a separate room but audible to the teacher intentionally made mistakes. With each error, the teacher was instructed to increase the voltage. The actor's performance was chillingly convincing. At 120 volts, he shouted that the shocks were painful. At 150 volts, he cried out, "Get me out of here, I refuse to go on." At 300 volts, after an agonized scream, he fell silent, refusing to answer any more questions. Most teachers turned to the experimenter, a stern figure in a gray lab coat, pleading to stop. But the experimenter was the voice of authority, and he responded with a sequence of 4 calm, insistent prods. 1. Please continue. 2. The experiment requires that you continue. 3. It is absolutely essential that you continue. 4. You have no other choice. You must go on. The internal conflict was immense. Participants were observed sweating, trembling, stuttering, and breaking into nervous laughter. 3 subjects experienced uncontrollable seizures. Yet, against all moral instinct, an astonishing 65% of participants obeyed the experimenter's commands and continued all the way to the final 450-volt shock. Milgram explained this phenomenon as the agentic state, where a person cedes their personal responsibility to an authority figure, seeing themselves merely as an instrument for another's will. The public and scientific communities reacted with a firestorm of controversy. Milgram was condemned for the extreme psychological distress inflicted upon his subjects. The ethical backlash was so severe it led to the establishment of new, strict regulations for human subject research that are still in place today. But the story doesn't end there. In his defense, Milgram revealed his meticulous debriefing process. Immediately after the experiment, each participant was gently told the truth, shown that the learner was unharmed, and had a friendly reconciliation. A year later, a follow-up survey revealed that 84% of participants said they were glad to have been in the experiment, feeling it had taught them an important lesson about themselves. Only 1.3% expressed regret. However, other reports suggest a darker legacy, with some participants claiming the experience left them with trauma that lasted for decades. Milgram also ran numerous variations. When the teacher was in the same room as the learner, obedience dropped to 40%. When 2 other teachers' actors defied the experimenter, 90% of the real participants found the courage to do the same. This revealed a powerful truth. While the pressure to obey is strong, the presence of dissent can be a potent antidote. The Milgram experiment holds a mirror to humanity. It didn't reveal that we are monsters, but that we are human, vulnerable to situational pressures, yet capable of profound moral courage. It forces us to ask, not what others did in a lab 60 years ago, but what we would do today. When faced with an order that conflicts with your conscience, would you obey?